Our mind is a universe that contains the deepest secrets that make us who we are. So, what is hidden in the dark corners of this universe? From ancient times to the Middle Ages, how did people understand, explain, and try to solve mental and spiritual illnesses? So how did mental illnesses and disorders intertwine with supernatural powers and social fears in this journey that extends from ancient civilizations to the witch hunts in the Middle Ages? When we look back to ancient times, human psychology was viewed in a way that is quite different from our modern understanding. However, the wisdom of these ancient civilizations still has a depth worth exploring today. Viewing psychology not as a science, but rather as a search for a supernatural and universal reality may be the key to understanding the philosophies of these times. So, how was psychology viewed in the ancient world? How did the deep thinkers of that period attempt to unravel the mysteries of the human mind? First, ancient Greek thinkers claimed that humans establish a balance between mind, soul, and body. However, achieving this balance was a mystery that sometimes required even the involvement of the gods. According to Plato's approach, the human soul was based on three basic elements: mind, courage, and desire. Each of these elements constituted the personality of a person, and each of them controlled the spiritual health of a person. However, the mixing of these three elements would lead a person to chaos. This is where Plato's teachings on spiritual health come into play: universal order. The health of the human soul depended on its being in harmony with the order of the universe. However, this harmony was not always so easy to achieve, because in ancient times, mental disorders were often associated with supernatural beings. The human mind would sometimes fall under the influence of supernatural powers, and a spiritual storm would surround the human body. Psychological problems were perceived as divine punishment or a mysterious sign, not like today's medical diseases. Madness was considered a result of the wrath of the gods. In Greek mythology, the gods punishing people and sending them mental illnesses is a frequently told theme. Hercules' madness and Orestes' loss of reason, driven by a sense of revenge, can be given as examples of such mythological stories. These myths provide important clues to understanding the limits of the human mind and the depths of the subconscious. Aristotle, on the other hand, although he approached psychological issues from a more biological perspective, still saw the human mind as part of the cosmic order. He argued that human behavior and emotions were shaped by the influence of various forces coming together within the body. However, another important point that draws attention in Aristotle's teaching was how the concepts of sadness and happiness were directly related to the universal balance of the human soul. For him, every human being had to seek an inner balance, and finding this balance was possible only if the human soul was in harmony with universal laws. These early insights of the Greek philosophers were the first steps in trying to penetrate the depths of the complex structure of the human mind. However, these depths were so mysterious and complex that even these thinkers could not provide definitive answers to these questions at one point. Psychological disorders were not considered to be a matter of the body or mind alone, but rather a universal disharmony or cosmic malaise. These maladies were directly related to people's hidden desires, cosmic guilt, or lack of divine mercy. However, after Greece, the mysterious teachings of ancient Egypt added new dimensions to these psychological concepts. Egyptian beliefs about death and soul fostered an understanding that questioned a person's spiritual state in a much deeper way. In Egypt, a person's soul could continue to exist even after death, and the judgment of souls played an important role in this process. In Egyptian philosophy, people's spiritual health was of critical importance not only during life, but also in their journey after death. This gave rise to the understanding that a person's psychological health was a spiritual journey that lasted a lifetime. This journey of the soul monitored the person's inner peace, moral values, and connection to the cosmic order. Similarly, in ancient Mesopotamia and India, human psychology was directly linked to cosmic energy and religious beliefs. Vedic philosophy argued that the human mind was connected to universal consciousness, and that achieving spiritual balance in humans was possible only through yoga, meditation, and spiritual purification. As a result, the approach of ancient civilizations to psychology was very different from today's scientific perspective. The human mind was seen as connected to cosmic secrets and universal balance. Psychological problems were considered a universal disruption or divine test rather than an individual problem. This deep, mysterious perspective laid the first traces of understanding the human mind and soul, but also showed how complex and unknown this journey is. The Middle Ages was a period in the Western world when mental health and psychological problems were linked to religion and mysterious powers. In this era, people's mental or emotional disorders were seen not only as individual problems, but also as a divine test, a sign of evil or the devil. Mental illnesses were associated with hostility, danger, and sin in society. Healing was seen as possible through divine intervention or religious purification. At first glance, the effects of the religious perspective on human mental health in the medieval Western world seemed to be a struggle between purity and evil. People saw psychological problems or mental disorders as a reflection of the wrath of the devil or God. Disbelief or sinful behavior was described as the human soul being possessed by demonic forces. Mental disorders were explained by religious perspectives such as the influence of the devil or witchcraft. In the Middle Ages, religious belief systems, especially Christianity and Catholicism, often associated mental illness with such supernatural and evil forces. In cases of disbelief, disobedience to God, or sin, people were considered to be people experiencing spiritual deterioration. The church mostly resorted to religious rituals, prayed, and begged for help from a supreme power to treat mental illnesses. However, this often caused more pain rather than helping people. One issue most clearly associated with mental illness in the Middle Ages was the witch hunt. Women with mental disorders were often accused of witchcraft and were ostracized from society. Witchcraft accusations were directly linked to mental illness and antisocial behavior. This process was perceived as part of evil and demonic influences. Witch hunts were often led by priests, church officials, and local administrators. In 1484, Pope Innocent VIII issued a decree completely banning witchcraft, which led to the rapid spread of witch hunts. The book Malleus Maleficarum, Witch Hook, is one of the most important documents of this period, and it detailed how witches should be recognized and what methods were used to get them to confess. The book believed that witches were in cahoots with the devil, and that mental disorders were caused by this cahoots. Witch accusations ended with torture and killing. The torture used to obtain confessions put women with mental health problems in an even more difficult situation. In the courts where women or socially excluded individuals were tried on charges of witchcraft, confessions were often obtained by force. For example, people who had previously had mental health disorders or exhibited strange behavior would face these charges. Torture in courts was commonly used to make people accused of witchcraft admit their guilt. Various methods were used to make tortured witches confess their crimes. However, often these confessions only further traumatized people and prevented the capture of the real criminals. When we look at today, this dark period experienced in the Middle Ages in the Western world created deep social traumas associated with mental disorders and social exclusion. However, the approach of the Islamic religion to psychology in the Middle Ages is quite different from the witch hunts and punitive attitudes towards mental illnesses in Europe of the period. in the Islamic world, especially between the 8th and 12th centuries. The developments in science, medicine, and philosophy between the centuries brought a more humane and scientific perspective to psychology. Islamic scholars examined the spiritual aspects of human beings with the concept of nafs, considering the health of the soul and body in a holistic way. Names such as Al-Razi and Avicenna explained psychological disorders with natural causes and developed treatment methods. In sanatoriums, mental illnesses were treated with music, aromatherapy, and compassionate care. This approach was humane and progressive, unlike the punitive methods of Europe at the time, and sought a balance between the soul and the mind. Esotericism aims to explore the power of the subconscious and the effects of universal energies on humans by going deep into the human soul. According to this perspective, psychological health is not only an individual problem, but also related at a universal level. Mystical philosophies like Hermetic teachings suggest that one should embark on an inner journey to achieve spiritual balance. According to these teachings, mental health can be achieved by exploring the dark and light aspects within a person. Spiritual health is closely related to personal development and inner enlightenment. Teachings such as Kabbalah also argue that the mental state of man is parallel to the cosmic events occurring in the universe. Another important dimension of esoteric philosophies is that they offer deep metaphysical perspectives on human spiritual health. Sufism argues that finding inner peace by purifying one's soul is effective on psychological and mental health. According to Sufis, mental disorders are directly related to a person's inner unrest and incompatibility with the universal. Although psychology has become a scientific discipline today, traces of ancient philosophies are still felt. Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, and other modern psychologists made in-depth analyses to understand the inner world of man and developed the concept of the subconscious. However, some teachings of esoteric philosophies still play an important role in understanding the complexity of human psychology. Souls, fears, and pains lost in the shadow of the past are actually deep traces of being human. Although each of us gets lost in the complexity of our inner world, true healing and liberation are only the result of an inner discovery. Let's not forget that when we go deep into our minds, we need to find our light as well as our darkness. Our mental health is not just an individual matter, but a shared journey for all of us. As we understand ourselves, we can better understand our society, our world, and ultimately our humanity. Discover your inner strength. Be the light in your darkness. Because the greatest journey is the journey we make to ourselves.